Family, what's good? What's good? What's good? This is your guy, Tone DeShields II. You guys are locked in on a dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. Supremely grateful, utterly in awe of being here with you guys, man. You guys are truly a part of this family, this ecosystem we're building here, and I'm really grateful for you guys locking in as you already do. You know the vibes, you know the energy, you know how sticky it gets, you know how we cover your Philadelphia Eagles and the rest of the NFL. So make sure you guys lock in. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show, especially if you are new to the platform. I'm always welcoming to newcomers. I love new faces, new voices, new perspectives. Make sure you guys are locked in on the content as well. Please, oh, please, before you get too comfortable, before you come in and take your shoes off, before you put your feet on the coffee table, before you get yourself something to drink, make sure you go say hi to grandmama upstairs, okay? Make sure you guys smash that like button, all right? Make sure you guys take care of what you got to take care of before you get too comfortable here. But again, your comfort isn't always at the forefront of my mind, but I also want to make sure you guys do love the content, and I want to make sure you guys are locked in and engaged in the content as well. So make sure you guys lock in. Appreciate it. Smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Super grateful, man. We are a week away. We are officially a week away from kickoff. Your Philadelphia Eagles are going to face off against the Green Bay Packers in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And it was so funny, right? I was listening to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith's press conference yesterday, and they spoke about how, they were in a meeting about what are the do's and don'ts about going over to Brazil, right? And A.J. Brown said, you know what? I'm at the point where I'm just going to stay in my hotel room. And then they asked Smitty about it. He said, no comment. It's just football no matter where you play. It's going to be a hell of a game. I can't wait to lock in. It's going to be fun, man. So, a lot of you guys got some updates here. I'm looking at some updates here. You guys are talking about the black and white unis. Is that the vibe right now for the Philadelphia Eagles? Is that what we're going with? Ooh, I see it. You've never seen a combo like this before. Okay. Let me lock in on this. Hold on. Y'all just put me D. This look nasty. Have we seen this before, y'all? Ooh, black helmet, black pants. I like it. That's slick. I'm telling you, I don't care what nobody say. I think the Philadelphia Eagles got some of the dopest uniforms in the league, man. It's something militant about it. It's something hard-nosed and gritty about it. It's something blue-collar about it. You feel me? Oh, man, that look good. The Eagles, in my opinion, in this modern NFL, they got to be top 5, top 10 in terms of jerseys and how they look, the helmet. We got to be top 10. We got to be top 5 at least. I don't know. But, man, shout out to the Eagles, man. Don't wear your green over there. Don't wear your green over there, y'all. You may get took. But, yeah, you guys know what the vibe is. We have a full show for you guys today. I have a special guest coming on at 1 p.m. Eastern time, which is 12 p.m. Central time, 11 a.m. Mountain time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, and it may be 8 a.m. Hawaiian time and 7 a.m. Alaskan time. But I have a very special guest coming on in about 25 minutes to discuss your Philadelphia Eagles, to discuss some changes in the industry. I cannot wait to speak to this guest. I'm trying to remember. I've had this guest on before. I've had this guest on before, but it's been quite some time. So I can't wait to speak to this gentleman. We have worked together before. Can't wait to have him on the show. We have a full show for you guys, right? A full slate. So make sure you guys buckle up, stay locked in. We have so much to get into. Yesterday, if you guys missed the show, we spoke about the Eagles secondary, right? And the upside and the concerns that we may have with that secondary. We also tapped into secondaries of Eagles past and just how far we've come in terms of our young talent and how much upside they do have. We also got into the potential wide receiver cores that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be facing as we get closer and move throughout the NFL season. Those first 8 weeks of the season, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to have a variety of wide receiver cores that they're going to have to face, right? That secondary in particular. But today, I want to focus on the defensive line. I want to focus on the defensive line, right? And again, we have a full show, and you guys do not want to miss what goes on here. I want to focus more on the defensive line, right? Because I believe the defensive line has a ton of expectations mounting on them, and a handful of calculated risk have been taken, right? Fletcher Cox retires. Hassan Reddick, you move on from him. You bring in Bryce Huff on a pretty big deal, right? You basically restructure Josh Sweat, give him some money up front. You're dependent on Nolan Smith, Jalyx Hunt. You're dependent on Jordan Davis to take that next step in his conditioning. You're depending on Jalen Carter to take that next step just overall, right? Milton Williams is in a contract year. What will be his future with the Philadelphia Eagles? What will he bring to the table? The rotational guys, Patrick Johnson. Why am I blinking here? Patrick Johnson and Moro Joma, and you brought in Byron Young, and we're going to start the show talking about Byron Young, right? You got BG, the OG, 15 years in the game. I expect BG to empty the tank. We're going to get into the defensive line throughout this show. And again, I have a special guest at 1 p.m. Eastern time. He will be here in about 20 minutes. And I cannot wait to have a conversation with this gentleman. But before we do that, again, smash the like button, you guys. Make sure you are subscribed. Do everything you need to do before you get too comfortable in the live stream. I want to address the signing of 23-year-old and former 2023 third-round pick defensive tackle Byron Young. Now, the story goes as such. The Philadelphia Eagles decided to claim Byron Young off of waivers. And he spent his first year of his career with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the Raiders, they decided to move on from him after only playing in 6 games as a rookie. He accumulated 99 snaps on defense and 14 snaps on special teams. He really didn't get too much NFL action in his rookie year. So it was kind of hard to really judge this brother, right? Again, Byron Young, he's only 23 years old. He's 6'3", 292 pounds. He played his college career at Alabama, where he put up 8 sacks and 22.5 tackles for loss over the course of 4 seasons. Now, you may ask yourself, why would the Raiders move on or just give up on a guy that's so early in his career? Why would you give up on a guy that you just drafted last year? And quite frankly, when I hear that and when I see that, the first thing I say to myself is, come on, it's the Raiders. How much stock can we put into the Las Vegas Raiders' decision-making? Have the Raiders built up any equity over the past, 30 years? Let's be honest about this. How much stock can we put into the Raiders front office? How much stock can we put into their coaching staff, their evaluators? How much stock can we put into those guys, right? And quite frankly, once again, there's never much rhyme or reason to the Raiders' madness. And to add context, the Raiders, they've experienced a new regime change. They're experiencing a front office turnover like no other. They're experiencing a coaching turnover like no other. They fired Josh McDaniel in the middle of the season. They fired him before December. They fired their damn near the whole coaching staff before December, elevated Antonio Pierce, and then they decided to commit to him long term, or at least for the next 3 or 4 years. And then you went from the John Gruden, Mike Mayock group, and now you're in the Telesco front office, right? And there was a front office in between the Mayock group and the Telesco group. I'm not well versed on Raiders knowledge in the front office. But over the course of the past, I want to say over the past, 5-6 years, they've gone through 3 wholesale front office and coaching changes. How can I put stock in guys that move that way? How can I put stock in the words or the evaluation of an organization that has an owner with a bowl cut? I'm just saying. So I think the Byron Young edition, a lot of you guys called it, by the way. A lot of you guys spoke on Byron Young being released, and a lot of you guys spoke on the Philadelphia Eagles potentially making a move for him. And I said it on Twitter. Eagles fans, you called it. You called it. You had it. You had the foresight, knowing Howie Roseman would make the move to further solidify that defensive line. Another argument somebody may make. One argument another person could make about this move that the Eagles made and the Raiders made is, if he's such a good player, then why would they release him? If he has so much talent, why would they release him? If they didn't know what they had, or if they knew what they had, why would they release him, right? Teams don't release good players. Teams don't cut or trade good players. It happens all the time. Teams cut good players all the time. Teams release and waive good players all the time. Teams trade good players all the time. We've seen players leave the Philadelphia Eagles, a la Russell Douglas, and carve out a solid career for themselves elsewhere. We've seen it. So I'm not going to sit here and jump out the window and say, oh my God, the Philadelphia Eagles are jumping the gun. It's an overcorrection. This kid's a bust. They let him go for a reason. Life isn't always that simple. Like I said, how much stock are we really willing to put into the Las Vegas Raiders when it comes to their front office decisions, when it comes to their coaching? And I like Antonio Pierce. He's a former Giant, so I should hate him, but I like what he did for the Raiders last year. He kind of stabilized the ship. And he's a black man as a head coach. I want him to succeed. But the reality is, again, teams release good players all the time. And the Raiders, or anyone for that matter, hasn't seen enough from Byron Young to make any sweeping generalization or declaration that he's a good player or a bad player. I'm not even here to say Byron Young is a great player. I'm not even here to say he's a good player, but I'm definitely not here to say Byron Young is a bad player. I'm definitely not here to say that. You will not hear me say that. You will not hear me say he's great or good. You will not hear me say he's bad either. I'm Switzerland on Byron Young. I'm neutral. The Eagles wanted to take a shot on him to add to their defensive tackle depth. I think it's a risk worth taking. Because, and again, to add to this, to make room for Byron Young, the Philadelphia Eagles had to move on from Marlon Tuipulotu. Now, don't be surprised if Marlon Tuipulotu makes it to the Eagles practice squad. He's a nose tackle. They have value for that. Don't be surprised if he doesn't make it back to the practice squad. They did draft him, of course. But on top of that, we kind of do know what the Marlon Tuipulotu show is. We know what he is. We know who he is. Right? We've seen the limitations to his game. So I'm not mad at the Philadelphia Eagles taking a shot on the Alabama product and Byron Young, who's only been in the NFL for a season and only played in 6 games, and who's currently experienced coaching turnover in his rookie year and front office turnover in his rookie year. The people that drafted him, the people that evaluated him, are no longer in the building. So I wouldn't put it past the Raiders to totally want to move on from all the assets from the previous regime. Organizations, teams do that. Coaches and GMs, they come in and they clean house. So when you think about it from the perspective of Byron Young being added to a defensive tackle room that consists of Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, Moro Ojomo, and Thomas Booker, someone who's making strides in their game, Thomas Booker, Moro Ojomo, who's been the darling of training camp and preseason for the Philadelphia Eagles on that defensive line, Jordan Davis, someone who we know has the talent, has the skill set, has the athleticism, just got to get that conditioning and that nutrition right. I think this is the season that happens for Jordan Davis. And then you got Jalen Carter, the Georgia product, the grizzly bear, the baby rhino who dominates the opposition in front of him, who's definitely looking to take that next step in his development and his production, has potential to be one of the best defensive tackles that we've seen for the Philadelphia Eagles. And obviously, many people have laid the foundation for him, and he has a lot to prove. But he has the talent, has the skill set, has the ferocity to get it done. So you drop Byron Young in a room full of talented players like this, oh man, we can't put a ceiling on this young man's development. It would be unfair. It would be unreasonable for me to say this player is a bust. And it will also be unreasonable for me to say this player is going to set the world on fire. You guys already know, here at Chalking Up Sports, we're going to be honest. We're going to keep it real. And most of all, you're going to get my perspective. That's a lot of talent in that room. It's a lot of talent. And again, because he's not far removed from the college game, he just got here basically, didn't play much last year. You don't really have much to gauge him on. You don't really have much film. You don't really have too much of a stat line to really gauge him on. Because top to bottom, the Raiders were a dumpster fire. I can't judge anybody fairly if you play for the Raiders. I can't. It's near impossible. The glasses, the lens is too foggy. The waters are too muddy over there. I can't gauge anybody fairly if you play for the Raiders. It's hard. So again, he was a rookie last year. Only played in 6 games. Am I right to write this young man off? That wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair to him. It wouldn't be fair to y'all. I owe it to y'all to keep it real and be as pragmatic yet optimistic as I can. Like I said, this room has a ton of talent in it. The D tackles, the D line. But focusing on the D tackles for right now, a lot of talent. We know the expectations are high for this D line. And this is what we're going to talk about today, the defensive line. But I also want to get to your comments because we're going to talk about the defensive line. We're going to get more in depth on the defensive line after our guest, after our interview with our very special guest that will be here in about 10 minutes, 9 minutes and counting. I want to get to your comments here. Make sure you guys smash that like button on the way in. Make sure you guys smash it on the way out. You guys are tuned in to Chalking Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II. If you're not familiar, thank you so much for being here. Get comfortable. I appreciate all newcomers. Let's get to the first super chat of the evening, or the afternoon, rather. Excuse me. Living in a time zone or living in a time warp. Shep, who has regularly shown love to your boy, who's regularly shown love to the show. Shep says, Shalom, Tone. Keep up the good work. Fly, Eagles, fly. Go Birds. Yes, sir. You already know how we give it up here, man. I appreciate you for always investing in the content, investing in me. I really do appreciate you, big dog. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's get to your comments. Punjab Kings fan, what's going on, my friend? What's going on? Cameron Holmes says we got some great college games tomorrow. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cody said, Tone, buy me a sandwich. I'm hungry. I will not. Shout out to my man Cody, man. I appreciate you. Big Rhythm. Big Rhythm says, Tone, apparently the home team at the stadium, primary color is black. So the Eagles are adopting it for their home game. Okay, so it is officially a home game for Philadelphia. Great. I love it. I love it. Fanny Eagles fan says, we can't wait 2 to 3 years for a first rounder to develop. Well, he's not a first rounder. He's a third rounder. I want to make that very clear, by the way, you guys. He's a third rounder, Byron Young. Now, Fanny, I don't know if you're talking about someone else. You could be. But as far as Byron Young goes, he's a third round pick, not a first rounder, a third round pick. So even then, expectations should be moderate when judging a third round defensive tackle. Twiz says all the players have talent. They got to want it. Abso-freaking-lutely. Twiz, you nailed it. At the end of the day, talent gets you in the door. Want to desire and grit and work ethic keeps you in the building. Donald Roan, he says defensive players. Linebacker and lineman usually make that jump in second and third year. Let's hope that's the case for a lot of these guys we have on the roster. Flexen says health is wealth. He says health is wealth. And he references N'Kobe Dean. Mean Dean better stay healthy. That's all I know. I get it. I get it. I get it wholeheartedly. I can't even argue with you, brother. Can't even argue with you. Flexen and Steppin says, Max Crosby, you can't judge, Tone? Come on, Flexen. Be realistic, bro. Stop being facetious. Max Crosby is an anomaly. He's a tremendous player in a terrible situation. Same thing with Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, they're tremendous players in terrible situations. Those guys have been established for years. So when I'm talking about young talent, guys that you just bring in, guys that are developing, and they're basically inheriting a dumpster fire of a franchise, it's pretty hard to judge those gentlemen. There are certain players who are able to outplay their circumstances. Not many players have that capability. Max Crosby is an anomaly. Not many players in this league are capable of outplaying their situation. He's the 1% of the NFL. The real RMP says, I wish we picked up the linebacker Byron Young from the Rams. David Dalrymple, he says Dean might start over Devin. He seems to be outplaying him. If Dean starts over anybody, it's going to be Zach Bond. Like, come on, be realistic. There are certain players who are able to outplay their situations. You're talking about the 1% of the NFL. Simple as that. The 1%. Not many players are capable of outplaying their situation. Like, he didn't even touch the field. He barely was on the field. I can understand if he played 17 games and you got nothing. He played in 6 games. 99 defensive snaps. How do you know what somebody is in 99 snaps? That's basically 2 games worth. A third-round pick. Relax. I got to relax. Let's see here. See what else we got in these comments. Big Chris says, Jalen Carter is who I'm watching. Absolutely. Absolutely. Fanny says Davis needs to lay off the pasta. Y'all funny, man. Donald Roan says, stop judging players that had a bad year or no playing time. Dean, Nolan, Huff, Davis. Give them the benefit of the doubt, at least for the first 3 to 4 games. Yeah, that's reasonable. That's reasonable, right? I mean, when you got a guy, I mean, at the end of the day, organizations are taking calculated risk on so many players. Organizations are betting on players, right? Okay, you did this here. I'm betting that you can do it elsewhere, right? We gotta be again. Everybody in here is not really willing to have a constructive conversation. Some people are just here to entertain and troll, which is fine. It's the internet. Let's have fun with it, right? No big deal. But every now and again, there comes a time where you have to settle down and have a real conversation. And the real conversation is, it's really hard to judge a guy like Byron Young, who only played in 6 games, 99 defensive snaps. I can't gauge that player for who he is or who he's going to be. I can't. All I know is I respect the Philadelphia Eagles for swinging. I respect the Philadelphia Eagles for always trying to stay ahead of the curve. Appreciate that. Drew Anderson says, good college player. Change of energy could be good. That's all. New situation, new team, new organization. He's in a winning situation now. That could bring out the best of a player. And Maria says he can only play up to the talent surrounding him. Yeah, sometimes when you just that Raiders defense was, oh my God, it was bad. Darlene Motion says Jordan Davis is lazy. Wow. Well, we'll see, man. We'll see. There's a lot to be desired. There's a lot to be desired when it comes to your Philadelphia Eagles right now, especially on the defensive side. And there's so much to get into. There's so much to discuss as it pertains to your Philadelphia Eagles, right? So many questions, so many predictions, so many concerns. But this man that I'm about to bring on next, I can't wait to hear his perspective on the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm so appreciative to this man. I texted him yesterday. He got back to me in less than an hour, less than a half an hour? The first 10, 15 minutes? This man is truly, truly one of the humblest, one of the realest, man. I had so many opportunities to kick it with this man, just talk football. He's just a dope dude. Love his energy, love his passion for the game. This man has really, really, really earned his stripes in this industry. So I want to take it step by step here because he deserves his flowers. So buckle up, my friend. I don't want you to get bashful here. This man is the former associate producer for NBC's Sunday Night Football. And did I mention he was recognized with an Emmy for his work there? On top of that, he was former host of the 700 Level Show on NBC Sports Philadelphia. He's a former radio host on 94 WIP and CBS Sports Radio. He had his second stint at NBC Sports Philadelphia as a host on a multitude of platforms and shows. He's hosted his own morning sports radio show on 97.5 The Fanatic. On top of that, he's currently, and I repeat, currently the creator and the host of his own daily digital sports program available on YouTube. Man, oh man, I can go on and on about this brother. The work he's putting in the game, how electric his personality is, how infectious his personality is. Like I said, currently the creator and host of his own digital sports program, The Farsi Show, and he will be making his debut on the new Bet Parks Eagles pre- and post-game show presented by Pond Lee Hockey, featuring himself, Derek Gunn, and Seth Joyner. Man, oh man, this man is a giant amongst giants. You know who he is, Mark Barzetta. My friend, how are you feeling?
I'm fantastic, brother. How you been? Tell him long time no see, bud. It's great to hear from you. What's going on?
Yes. I'm doing great, my friend. I'm doing well. I'm here just building my platform here. And
Yeah,
I'm
with a wooden samurai sword, you crazy maniac. What's going on back there? I like that you just have that casual flex in the back of your shot.
Well, my friend, I am a man of the people. I consider myself worldly, right? I'm an anime fan. I've always been interested in just the Japanese culture, the samurais. I love kung fu movies. You know what I'm saying? I love my sports. I got my globe right here. You feel what I'm saying? So I'm just a worldly brother. You feel me? But Farzy, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you're here, my friend. First and foremost, I'm
grateful to be here. Thank you for thinking of me, man. No, it's good to catch up. I'm looking forward to talking to Birds about them Eagles with you and all that type jazz, man. It's great to see you.
Definitely.
How's Dad doing?
I'm glad you said that. I was going to ask how's the wife, but Dad's great. Dad's doing well. Mom's doing well. Wife's doing great. Family's good. How are the kids? How's the wife? How are your parents?
I try to avoid my family like the plague. No, they're great. Everyone's good. Little Toots. My daughter Emmanuel just turned 5. My son's 2.5.
Wow.
Really strong kid. My son, both of them actually could be offensive linemen when I think about it. But yeah, they're great. Everything's good, man. Yeah, we're getting ready to go down to Virginia. I'm gonna do a little fishing. I'm gonna have to take video and show our boy D Gun how the men do it. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have to do a little fishing, a little largemouth bass. I might have to dive in the water with just a knife, because that's what real men do. Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to a couple of days getting away. And here's what's always amazing to me about when you go down, like where you're at, right? I'm sure you could get to quiet. And where I live, you don't really up this area. You don't get to quiet, as you well know. I always forget what nothing sounds like. And this guy that's our cousin, my wife's cousin, they have this estate, more or less, that's like on 500 acres shared by his entire family. It's like a compound. And it's just so quiet. Like, I don't even think they have a McDonald's in this town. Like, I have to do a lot of cooking before I go just so I have food that I'll eat. You know what I mean? Because you ain't getting the brajol down there. You ain't getting the good fresh pastas down there. You ain't getting the good stuff, the good chicken cutlet. You know what I'm saying? Everything is deep fried. There's no cheesesteaks down here. No, there are no cheesesteaks down here. And if they are, the bread sucks. All right? So that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to get in the proper headspace to go down there. I got about 5 hours, 6 hours worth of cooking I got to do before we go away for a couple days. So I do love that stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting in the kitchen and start slicing up some chicken breasts and rolling some brajol.
Farzy, I truly love how colorful you can communicate, man. I truly do. And you bringing up D-Gun earlier is hilarious. One thing you don't want to do is stoke D-Gun's fire. But I got to ask you this, man. I got to ask you.
Yeah.
You, Derek Gunn, Seth Joyner, Bet Parks pre- and post-game show. Please tell me how this thing came together. I heard rumblings about it. I heard rumors, but now it's officially here. Please break down how this connection came about.
Seth Joyner just wanted to keep talking football with the Philadelphia Eagles fan base. Derek Gunn, Seth Joyner, myself, we all worked together in NBC. Derek Gunn longer than I did, especially longer with Seth. I worked with Seth over there for 2 seasons. Got to know him on a personal level. And look, I grew up obviously knowing who Seth Joyner is and was. I really got to know him in those 2 years at NBC. And then, of course, he and I were together on another platform. And with D-Gun, that D-Gun actually originally brought me into. And for me, I just really took to D-Gun. He and I really hit it off like 15 years ago when we first met. Seth, I just appreciate someone who doesn't really care about someone's reaction to his honesty. He's going to be honest. And I always joke with Seth, it's like everybody that's like either going for a prom outfit or a wedding dress or a tuxedo or whatever, they need to bring Seth Joyner along, because Seth Joyner will tell you, no, those pants make your butt look way too big. Like, he will tell you exactly what he's thinking at all times. And to apply that to his love of loves, which is football and Eagles football and the way a defense should be run, the way a team should be run, to be right there and witness that man get riled up, to witness that man have a commitment to honesty and the real take, not the hot take, the cold take, or the take that will just get the most attention, but the real take, which our society is just deprived of nowadays, is a wonderful thing. And Derek Gunn is someone that really understands how a journalist is supposed to operate. And nowadays, journalism has been watered down. And Derek Gunn has a commitment to accuracy. He does not have a commitment to attention. And that's what so many people focus on right now. I'm going to say something. Oh, but that's stupid. It doesn't matter. It'll get attention. And I know that that's the way a lot of the world works. And that's not anything really all that new. It's just in a different platform now. But Derek Gunn wants to make sure that his audience is a well-informed, well-educated audience when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles and whatever it is they have going on. And I think someone actually described it to me rather perfectly as far as what my responsibility is with these two gentlemen. And it's just make sure that the train stays on the tracks. That's my job. Because Gunnar and I, having known each other for so long and having so many interests, I mean, we love football and we love sports, but Gunnar's a Renaissance man. You know what I mean? That's one of the things I love about him, and I could go back and forth on a lot of different things. And the last thing we'll talk about is football. But in this setting, we get to show our love for football, and to have a guy like Seth Joyner right there to really break it down for us is going to be a phenomenal thing. And really, this is Seth's way of directly reaching out to the Philadelphia Eagles fan base in order to continue to give his expert analysis on what the team is doing.
Okay, so how would people be able to find this show? Where can they find it? How can they support the show? Will they be able to see it in person, live? Just break down the dynamic and how people can get connected to this program.
Parks Casino in Ben Salem, right around the corner from my high school, Archbishop Wood. You guys could go to Parks Casino in Ben Salem. We'll be there for the pregame show for an hour. We'll be there for an hour and a half after the game for the postgame show. And that's where we'll be every single game day. To watch us on the digital platforms, we'll be on Seth Joyner Show channel on YouTube. We'll also be on ABC, 6abc.com. So check into 6abc.com and you can watch the show there. And across all your favorite social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook Live, Twitter, or X. You can watch us on there as well. So that's where we will be for you, Philadelphia Eagles fans.
Listen, I'm definitely going to tune in. I can't wait to see how this thing pans out. I know the kind of work you guys put in. I've seen it firsthand, and I really can't wait to just see this beautiful partnership that you guys have been cultivating well over a decade continue to flourish, my friend. Now,
thank you, brother.
Enough with the pleasantries. Let's get into the nitty-gritty.
No. 8 minutes of pleasantries. I need more pleasantries. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. Yes.
Let's get into why we're really here. The Philadelphia Eagles are entering the 2024 campaign under a ton of pressure, a lot of expectation, especially coming off of the way the season went last year, right? But I first want to start with the most recent news when it comes to the current state of the Philadelphia Eagles 53-man roster and practice squad. First and foremost, were there any cuts or additions that took you by surprise?
I wasn't surprised by Jack Stahl being re-added to the roster, more or less, when it comes to the practice squad. I did think it was interesting, and I was surprised that the Eagles only kept 2 tight ends after preseason ended, and I was surprised that one of those tight ends was not E.J. Jenkins. He got practice squatted as well. Grant Calcaterra is just a guy, unfortunately, that can't stay healthy. He has talent. It's not like he's not talented. He just can't stay healthy. He's had his concussion issues. And I thought E.J. Jenkins showed more promise than Stahl, more promise than Calcaterra in this one preseason run than Calcaterra or Stahl showed really throughout the last 2 seasons. Now, I understand Stahl when it comes to being a blocking tight end. He has done a wonderful job in that regard. But I thought you would just continue, especially when you have Grant Calcaterra, who injury problem, and Dallas Goedert has injury problems as well. And you would have loaded up a little bit more on that position when it comes to the active roster and not just the practice squad. The other thing that surprised me, you have a tight end, or excuse me, you have a center, and Jason Kelce that just retired. You have a guy in Cam Jurgens that has never played center at the NFL level, and you thought it would be a good idea to go into this season without a backup center? Like right now, your backup center is Landon Dickerson. So if anything happens with your center, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to now hurt 2 positions and move Landon Dickerson over? I thought that was very curious. And when they cut McMahon, who was a 6th-round pick, I would say that was shocking, because I know how much they always put into their trenches, as they always say, around the draft time. We're all about building the trenches. We're all about the offensive defensive line. That's how we always do things. And you cut a guy you just drafted. That's a very rare occurrence. Now, I know he made the practice squad as well. And look, anything could change over the next week, and I understand that. But it's a very odd thing. I wasn't surprised that Paris Campbell got cut, especially after trading for Jahan Dotson. I think that's a good pickup. The linebacker room, the only thing that really surprised me there a little bit was the idea of Oren Burks not making the squad, Ben Van Sumeren making the squad instead. And again, they practice squatted Oren Burks. So those were some surprises. The only thing I would call shocking is that there was no legit backup center after cutdown day.
It's interesting, right? To me, it looks as if the Philadelphia Eagles are trying to exercise, although it comes with its own set of risk, it seems as though they're trying to exercise some level of quality control. They're not willing to keep you on this roster just to fill a quota, right?
Yeah.
If they want to keep the most talented people on this roster as much as they possibly can, and if they feel like they can double back and bring you back, and be it practice squad or whatever it may be, they'll do that. But it just seems like Howie Roseman is approaching this offseason very differently than he has in the past. Like you said, only 2 tight ends, right? Another trend that was kind of broken. Only coming in with 3 running backs, when over the past 4 seasons, you've come in with 4. Going really heavy on the defensive side, right? I got to ask you this. What does the construction of this Eagles roster say about Howie Roseman, this coaching staff, and the overall direction they're trying to take this team in?
Wow. That is the loaded question has a negative connotation to it, but that's
robust. Let's put it robust. How about that?
Yeah. It's I just heard this recently. It's one page in a novel that I'm going to get into. Let's put it this way. Howie Roseman's done a phenomenal job. I mean, you look at the fact that the Cowboys just had all the problems in the world signing CeeDee Lamb, but they got him. San Francisco 49ers had all the problems signing Brandon Ayuk, but they got him. Howie Roseman signed both his wide receivers with no problem in this offseason. So, that's the starting point as far as I'm concerned. The idea of the Eagles, even before we step foot on the football field, the idea that the Eagles brought in 2 new coordinators, one was almost immediately in Vic Fangio. The other, Kellen Moore, took a little bit, but they brought him in. This is a complete makeover of what you were doing. You brought in a guy not just to be your offensive coordinator, but let's face it, I don't even know right now. I don't remember who has the title assistant head coach in the Philadelphia Eagles, but it's Kellen Moore as far as I'm concerned. It's Vic Fangio as far as I'm concerned. Because really, they are the head
running back coach.
Okay, Jamal Singleton. So you have right now on this Eagles roster, on this Eagles coaching staff, you have a head coach of the offense, you have a head coach of the defense, and then you have Nick Sirianni, who has been not demoted by title, but certainly demoted by responsibility to now just be the – people use the term CEO head coach. I think that's a little too complimentary. I like to use regional manager, and now I'll use guidance counselor. He's a guidance counselor head coach. And I say that out of honesty, not out of trying to be a jerk, but you have changed your offense completely, 95% according to your franchise quarterback. You've changed your defense to even the point where I'm watching them in preseason, and I'm going, this doesn't look like what I know about Vic Fangio. So that's interesting. The amount of times they blitzed in the preseason. I know they're not going to show everything, but it was different. You brought back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and first and foremost, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson wanted to come back. You cut Avonte Maddox, brought him back, made him into a safety, returned him to the safety position, I should say. And then you're able to go out there with this linebacking core, and you add a kid in Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who let's just say for a second, let's just say his name was Tom Smith, okay? The instincts are absolutely there with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Nakobe Dean actually looks like, first off, he's healthy, and second, looks like he's able to cover a lot of ground. And then you're also bringing in a guy like Devin White as your veteran leader to be your starting middle linebacker on this team, and he looks like the Devin White of a couple of years ago. And then you bring in another guy who has really been trying to cut his teeth throughout his entire career in the NFL, did it as a special teamer in Oren Burks, or it's not Oren Burks, Zach Baun. And Zach Baun goes into preseason and looks pretty damn sharp, and goes through training camp looking pretty damn sharp. So for me, I am really amazed at this roster. The only 2 questions I have that I would, if Howie Roseman was sitting in front of me, the only 2 questions I have is Bryce Huff really up to snuff when it comes to a 30% snap increase from last year? I mean, you're talking about a guy who played 40% of the snaps. You're talking about a guy when Vic Fangio, every time he was asked about Bryce Huff, continuously talked about Bryce Huff like he was a undrafted rookie trying to make the team. And Howie, I could just picture in the background being like, we just gave him $50 million, Vic. Say something nice. Then I look at the offensive side of things. The only other criticism I have is Cam Jurgens and Jalen Hurts on the same page? Because I got every bit of confidence that Cam Jurgens can go out there and get 10 yards down the field, 15 yards upfield from a running back and make a block on a screen or a run, whatever, and do very similar things that Jason Kelce did from a physical standpoint. What I don't know, because I haven't seen this part of it yet at the NFL level, I haven't seen him shift protection. I haven't seen him communicate with Jalen Hurts. All I've heard from Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni is that they're always talking. Okay, great. How does it apply on the football field in an actual game? Not a practice, not a joint practice, but an actual game. My questions are all about quarterback to center. I got confidence in both, but until I really see it, I can't answer the question of how they're going to perform together. The only reason I wanted to see Jalen Hurts, Cam Jurgens, and Kellen Moore, obviously, communicate in the preseason was to see them for a series or two, just get over that hump and get that experience of what it's like for the three of them to communicate from Kellen to Jalen, Jalen to Cam Jurgens at the line of scrimmage to Jalen Hurts. Like, just get all that down, get that out of the way. We're not going to know what that looks like, unfortunately, until we get into Brazil a week from today. But everything else, I think Howie Roseman has done a fantastic job from start to finish. Yeah, I got questions. It's not perfect. But when I'm looking at this roster, I'm looking at it top to bottom, and I'm looking around the league at other problems that other teams are having, and I'm just like, wonder what that's like. Because it's been a while since we've had to deal with something like that.
You know, as far as, you know, you've covered a lot of ground, kind of like N'Kobe Dean, right? You covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, right. I go side to side, baby. Yeah.
But I appreciate it because what it did was it kind of just laid out the foundation of what this conversation is really going to consist of, right? Let's stay on the offensive side since that's where we left off. You know, you mentioned how we're still waiting to see what that relationship or on-field chemistry will look like between Jalen Hurts and Cam Jurgens. And you can take it a step further by throwing in Kellen Moore into the fold, right? You know, there was a recent headline that came across the wire via 94 WIP, and Jalen Hurts spoke about, you know, the state of the franchise, basically. And he revealed that the organization essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but let's make it a little sexy. They basically stunted his development at the quarterback position because they relied on future Hall of Famer and Jason Kelce to pretty much handle all the line calls, you know, to pick up the blitzes, make all the adjustments, so on and so forth, right? They took that off of a young Jalen Hurts' plate. That made sense for a rookie Jalen Hurts, right? Or even a second-year Jalen Hurts before we knew what he was. But when you enter that third year being the franchise guy, and, you know, now he's entering year 4 of being the franchise guy, now it's time to start to see that evolution of Jalen Hurts taking full control, having autonomy of his offense. What were your thoughts when you heard that come across the wire from Jalen Hurts?
There's a big fat reason why Nick Sirianni has as little power as he has ever had. That's what jumped to mind. I know some people took it as a slight against Cam Jurgens. I know some people took it as a slight against Jason Kelce. I didn't take it like that at all. I took it as Nick Sirianni is halting or stunning the growth of Jalen Hurts. And that's what even Jalen Hurts said as far as the word halting. My progress was halted. He didn't say that it was Nick Sirianni, but how else? I don't understand any other way to take that other than the head coach of the football team, who again has had diminishing responsibility with this team, said, Jalen, don't worry about it because Kelsey's got it. I also then thinking about it down the line. Hold on a second. Is that why Jalen Hurts called Wink Martindale? Because he knew his coaches were like, don't worry about it. Jason's got it. He's like, no, man, I need to get better.
If you won't tell me, somebody else better tell me.
Exactly. So I think that answered a lot of questions that we had about this offseason, whether it was Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni not being on the same page, those two having a little bit of a falling out, and then at least getting back to a decent working relationship, it seems like. For me, that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to the idea of Jalen Hurts wanting to continue to learn, wanting to continue to develop, and then now that push has come to shove, and he knew probably going into that Buccaneers game that at the end of the season of the playoffs, all right, this is probably my last go around with Jason Kelce. I need to make sure that I know what I'm doing So I'm going to call Wink Martindale myself and be like, look, man, what were you guys doing? Because I need to crack this code. And Wink Martindale obviously was done with the Giants at that point. And they spoke, I believe, it was a 30-minute conversation. And it also speaks volumes for, I think, the character of Jalen Hurts. Like, all right, if I want an answer and somebody's not willing to answer me, guess what? You have just become a hurdle, and I'm going to leap over you to get to the answer. And whether it's an answer I like or an answer I don't like, I just need an answer. Because guess what that's going to make me? Better. That's going to make me better at my job. That's going to make me better working with Cam Jurgens. Because Cam Jurgens, like, he can be brilliant, off the charts, incredibly brilliant, and I hope he is. But, I mean, the other part of the story is just that Jalen Hurts had to rely on Jason Kelce more. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? I don't take this as a huge slight, again, in that relationship. I take it more to the coaches. But it kind of makes sense when the veteran Hall of Fame center is all of a sudden out, and a younger guy who's never done it before is now taking over, and the elder statesman who is now Jalen Hurts, I would expect him to have a little bit more say in the matter, or expect him to help out the center in that situation. Because it's not like Jason Kelce just every single time turned around and told Jalen Hurts what to do. They still had communication. Jason Kelce, it's funny, whenever I've talked about this twice now over the last three times over the last couple of days, I'll tell you the same story. Dana Carvey. You know who Dana Carvey is? Comedian, actor guy?
I don't think I do.
David Spade. He was in Tommy Boy with Chris Farley.
Okay.
So these guys have a podcast. They're both Saturday Night Live alum. And every once in a while, they'll venture outside the comedic realm. And they had Jason Kelce on a couple months ago. And I listened to it because I was like, I want to see how these two guys interview Jason Kelce. And it was a great interview. It was so much fun. And Jason Kelce is in my age range. And he was a big fan of those guys growing up, just as I was. And they asked him a question about, is it like, basically it was like, again, they're comedians, but they were serious. That's the serious question. Like, how do you determine the cadence, how many huts you have, something like that, you know? And Jason Kelce was like, well, that's between me and the quarterback, and the quarterback will call, the cadence essentially, and then we know when we have to kind of go on, and I'm also trying to recognize where the blitz is coming from. And then they asked, well, what about the quarterback? And he's like, oh, no, the quarterback always has final say. I'm never in a situation, Jason Kelce said this, I'm not in a situation where I overrule the quarterback.
We've seen that, though. That can't be – we've seen him overrule Jalen Hurts before.
I was thinking about it. I can't think of a time where Kelce turned around and was like, no, this is what we're doing.
You don't remember that play that – I think it was a Chiefs game. You remember – I can't remember exactly what game it was last season. Hurts tried to make an adjustment. Kelce waved it off, and then they called the play. Do you remember that?
Was that his own – was that the cadence, or was that where the line was going?
I don't know if it was cadence related. But there was something there was some adjustment Hurts was trying to make. Okay. And Kelce said, "Nah, we're going this way."
All right, I'll have to go back on that one.
That could be, I don't know the context of the wave off.
You are probably right.
But again, to play devil's advocate, Farzy, right?
Yeah.
Again, like you mentioned, Hall of Fame center. When Nick Sirianni got there, Kelce is a Super Bowl champion. It's almost like insulting to not lean on your veteran in that respect, right?
Okay. Sure, absolutely.
I just had to ask that. So,
well, are you talking about from Jalen Hurts to Jason Kelce?
Well, you mentioned the Nick Sirianni angle, right? Because you said it's not really a slight towards anybody else, but in your mind, you look at it as a slight towards Nick Sirianni.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, so to your point, is it fair? And again, this is me just playing devil's advocate, trying to throw Sirianni some level of bail, because I'm with you. He's kind of on the fringe with me.
Okay.
He comes in as a rookie head coach. Jalen Hurts is a starter. Jason Kelce, your future Hall of Fame center. He's a Super Bowl champion. He has pedigree. It would kind of be criminal not to rely on that guy to make the necessary adjustments, or to kind of put most of it on his plate, right?
Yes. However, we're talking about developing a younger quarterback with a center that is getting ready to retire. So in my mind, that's like me knowing that there's fire on the other side of the door. And you're like, why shouldn't I open this door? I'm just like, don't open the door. And you're like, but why should I open the door? Just don't open the door. And then I'm leaving. And you're like, well, I've always wanted to find out. Ah! And then all of a sudden you're on fire. You know what I mean?
Okay. So you look at it as this should have been Jalen Hurts having more autonomy and control over the offense should have been something that they should have been working towards, not waiting for it to come.
Working towards is I think the best phrase there, because you have to understand the reason why. You can't just be you don't learn anything from someone just telling you, do this. Well, why am I doing it? Why are we reacting this way? So I understand that when I see it, I should react that way as well. Because what am I learning by Jason Kelce just saying, no, we're going to be protecting over here? I'm not learning anything from that if I'm Jalen Hurts. I want to understand the reason why, the method to the madness. That's where I think this whole story points. That's what I think the whole story points back to, is that you have to teach someone, you have to teach the reasons why, not just X, Y, and Z. You have to explain why it's X, Y, and Z. That's what I think makes it better, either a student, pupil, in any regard, not just football. Like you might want to deviate from the process. And I know that's a dirty phrase to a lot of people, but you might want to deviate from it. Learn why you should learn why you should deviate, when you shouldn't deviate, when you should deviate, so that you just have a better overall understanding of what it is you're trying to do as an offense. Not just, I have to do this because I'm told to do this. I think if you want a guy to really improve, they have to learn what's going on and why it's going on around them.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about Jalen Hurts. For the most part, he's improved every year of his career. Now, in 2023, he did have a little setback, but statistically, he was pretty much the same guy. Just got to get the turnovers in check. And I think he actually shouldered a lot more of that offense, especially when things kind of started to go haywire and the coaching was very much abysmal. You know, you bring in Kellen Moore to pretty much revamp this entire offense. You're obviously going to incorporate some semblance of what Jalen Hurts likes to do from the previous offense. But I'm curious to know, what's your perspective on exactly what Kellen Moore can provide Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense that's very loaded with talent? A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley. You bring in Jahan Dotson. A lot has been invested on that side of the ball.
Yeah,
Kellen Moore has a lot of toys to play with. Break down how you think he utilizes those things.
First off, the idea of motion in this offense. I love it. Last year we listened to Nick Sirianni talk about, well, you know, motion, you don't really need to do it, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like, motion's great. Love motion. Motion's fantastic. So motion, and that's not really that much of an exaggeration, but bringing that into the offense and a comfortability with Jalen Hurts that I don't think he had last year. There was something from this offseason that really stuck out to me about Jalen Hurts and this coaching staff now with Kellen Moore. Jalen Hurts was asked before the open practice at Lincoln Financial Field this year. He was asked about the turnovers last year, which are a stick in the mud for all of us. Like, that sticks out to us about last year more than anything, and led to a lot of the collapse at the end of the year, of course. But Jalen Hurts was asked about it, and he said, you know, I'm just trying to concentrate on me, put last year behind me, and do what I'm coached to do. Do what I'm coached to do. Last year, I remember talking about that Seattle game, and I've talked about the Seattle game, Eagles, Seahawks in Seattle this past year. I've talked about it, I feel like, ad nauseum throughout the offseason, because to me, that was the biggest telling sign to me that this coaching staff was in Jalen Hurts' head. Now, again, talk about final say. If you're the quarterback, you're going to let that ball rip. You have final say over where that ball goes. But if your coaching staff is telling you, take the shot, and you're like, it's like it was in Seattle, 1st and 10, we're up 4 points in the fourth quarter with about 9 minutes to go. I'm taking a shot to Quez Watkins when I have Kenny Gainwell open at the line of scrimmage. Why am I doing that? Well, that's what we're coaching you to do. I believe Kellen Moore is teaching Jalen Hurts, and from what I understand and what I've heard, he's teaching Jalen Hurts all about ball security and all about situational football. And I know some people, when I say situational football, they talk about how a team performs on 3rd down or 4th down. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about situational football to the point where Jalen Hurts, a guy who can take over a game, can downshift in a fourth quarter and simply become a game manager in that situation to make sure they hold on to the football, because that's what the situation calls for, and not give it up. And one of the number one ways they're going to do that is to, A, put guys in motion so they're a little bit more open. And you also see the defense. They give you a preview of what they're doing before they do it. And then on top of it, you're also telling Jalen Hurts, don't be afraid to check down. Don't be afraid to throw around the line of scrimmage. And if it's hard for you to process that with Kenny Gainwell and DeAndre Swift, then you know what? This is what we're going to do. We're going to bring in Saquon Barkley, and he's going to be floating around the line of scrimmage. Can you dump it off to him? Yes? Okay, good. Right. Like, that to me is something that will go so far. I think when it comes to Kellen Moore, everyone's going to be in play. Everyone will get their love. And to be honest with you, it's one of the least things I'm worried about, because even under Brian Johnson, even under Shane Steichen, Miles Sanders got his, DeAndre Swift got his, A.J. Brown got his, Devontae Smith got his, and Dallas Goedert, when healthy, got his. So this offense is already well-versed in sharing the pigskin. So I think Kellen Moore brings a lot to this table. And I know initially a lot of people were worried about turnovers. A lot of people were worried about running up the score and almost comparing it to a fun and gun offense. I don't think that's the way Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense with Kellen Moore is going to approach it. I think it's going to be a much smarter overall process and program and system that you're going to see in Kellen Moore's offense.
If I had to draw an analogy out of that, essentially what you're trying to say is, hey, Jalen Hurts, just because you got a Bugatti, just because you got a Ferrari, doesn't mean you got to drive way above the speed limit. It's okay to drive the speed limit. It's okay to hit the brake every now and again. Don't avoid stop signs. They're there for a reason.
Yeah. If you're just going to pick the kids up from school, do you really need it? No, you just use the Volvo, whatever. And then, you know what? Every once in a while, a special occasion at school, last day, you drive the Bugatti. You pick them up, and you're good to go after that.
Or if it's date night. Or if it's date night with Miss Farzetta, hey, you bring out the Lambo. Hey, Farzy, hey, you know what I mean?
How did you know I have both a Lambo and a Bugatti? I'm like, come on now.
Ladies love fast things. Well, not all the time, if you catch my drift. But
no. What? Okay.
You know what? We've dove so much into the offense. I want to get into the defensive side of the ball, my friend. I think although the offense is exciting, I think the defense is where the real crux of this season lies. Because those guys, again, on offense, they're talented. Like you said, they know how to produce. They're going to get their numbers. They're going to put points on the board, right? It's just a matter of how it looks. But the defense, there are a plethora of question marks. And you've kind of already laid out some of your concerns with that defense, right? And the Philadelphia Eagles, they've made a handful of calculated risks. We've talked about it briefly. Giving Bryce Huff that big contract, right? You also trade Hassan Reddick. You also go in and bring Devin White, someone who has had success, but who's kind of been on the downslope in his career. What goes through your mind when I lay out some of those concerns that people have, and then name some ones that maybe you haven't mentioned quite yet?
Coming out of minicamp, one of my major takeaways was whether or not this defense understands what's really being asked of them. And that's when I'm talking about the defensive line, because Fletcher Cox isn't here anymore. And I loved hearing both Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter talk about, I think it was Jordan Davis's quote specifically. Jalen Carter said something along these lines, but Jalen Carter said this. Or, sorry, Jordan Davis said this specifically. Jalen Carter said something along these lines. But Davis came out and said, Nolan's coming to save us. Yes. This is our show now. He got in the best shape of his professional career in the offseason. His goal is to be a offensive line breaker and buster and still week 18, not just week 13 and then all of a sudden it's over. He does nothing left in the tank. Same thing with Jalen Carter. He wants to be that same type of player, be able to bring it for all 17 games through an 18-week schedule, and realize that there is no other veteran that's going to be picking up. It's their show now. A guy like I think a guy that's not going to be talked about enough, but a guy that's being asked a lot of is Milton Williams, because now Milton Williams is officially that number 3 guy in that rotation that's going to have to go out there and get the job done. And I love the idea of Vic Fangio when he was in Miami. He wanted to trade for Milton Williams, but Howie wouldn't do it when he said that at his press conference. So I think right there, that's where every defense starts with the Philadelphia Eagles. It starts with 3 interior defensive linemen, and I'll give way to the nose tackle idea with Jordan Davis as well. Excuse me. And then those guys being able to get that penetration, get that pressure in the middle, so that guys like Bryce Huff and Josh Sweat can get around the edge. Brandon Graham can give us whatever he's got left coming off the edge as well. That's going to be a huge thing for this defense. And it is a concern because, again, just like Cam Jurgens and Jalen Hurts, we haven't seen Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter be the stars of the show with no veteran support behind them. Milton Williams is not a rookie by any means, but he's certainly not Fletcher Cox. He's not Javon Hargrave, for instance. So that's a concern for me, just seeing those guys take to the next level, and then when they take it to the next level, staying that level for a full schedule. Isaiah Rodgers, I'm still a little perplexed on. I didn't have a lot of confidence in him being a starting outside corner, in all honesty, but that seems to be the way the Eagles are going. That could change quickly, but I got confidence in 2 of the 3 cornerback positions, in Darius Slay, as well as Quenyon Mitchell in the middle, and he's a rookie. He still has to prove it at the NFL level, but I really like what I've seen from him so far. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, when you talk about a Vic Fangio defense, people talk about quarters, people talk about a lack of aggression. Those are two big buzz statements or words when it comes to Vic Fangio. There's two more I want to add in there. Freedom and communication. Or, I'm sorry, discipline. Freedom and discipline. When you understand the freedom you can have in a well-disciplined defense, stay with me, that's where you can excel. And I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has a great understanding of where that freedom is in a Vic Fangio scheme. I was listening to guys, they were actually on Hard Knocks. People can go back and watch this. I was listening to members of the Dolphins defense talk about Vic Fangio before everything hit the wall, apparently. And they were talking about how a lot of teams in the league run his defense because it's had success. The key is cracking the code. But once you understand what Vic Fangio is asking of you, and you understand the communication, you understand from a defensive back position, switch offs, you understand from a safety position, doing that as well. Once you have that understanding, you know the freedom you're going to have. And I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has a great understanding of that. From what I've seen from Reed Blankenship, I think he's got a good understanding of it as well. But really, it lies for me in this team in staying healthy and the cornerback position with Isaiah Rodgers, see how quickly they would make a change. Hopefully they don't have to. Hopefully they're right, I'm wrong, and that's that. The strangest thing, though, Tone, about this version of defense, I can't remember a time where I was this excited, even through the preseason, of watching Eagles linebackers. Like, what? Yeah, we're not supposed to have that feeling. Jeremiah Trout Jr., Jacoby Dean, Devin White, excuse me. Watching these guys really develop through the preseason. Even Ben Von Sumeren has gotten in the backfield a couple times.
Wait, so you're high on the linebacker room? Just want to make sure.
No. Well, put it this way. I'm high on it in this regard. I've never been excited about a whole unit of linebackers with the Eagles. I'm excited about what these guys could do. I think what they're going to be asked to do in a Vic Fangio defense, they're not. Look, they blitzed in the preseason. I would be shocked if they were a top 15 blitz percentage team in the NFL. Like, shocked if that's the case. But I think you finally have players that understand that position throughout the depth chart, as opposed to one solid guy in TJ Edwards, one solid guy in Zach Cunningham, for crying out loud, and a guy in Jacoby Dean who is finally healthy. So that, to me, I think gives you a good idea of what this defense could do on the interior, on the in the box, I should say, from those linebackers in this defensive line.
When it comes to the overall success of this defense, which player are you looking towards to truly carry that mantle? Basically, what I'm asking is, whose success is directly contingent? How can I word this? The Eagles defense. Who's
the key? Who's the key to it all?
Who's the key to it all, basically, right? Whose success is directly tied to the Eagles' overall defensive success here? Let's do it that way. Who are they really dependent on to really take that next step and do their job? If this person doesn't do their job, everything else fails. Who does that fall on, Farzy?
It is a good question. From a leadership standpoint, I think they're going to be looking at Devin White. But from a production standpoint, I think they're going to be looking at Jalen Carter. And I know he's a second-year player, and people want to push it aside, whatever. Again, what do the Eagles do? The Eagles build on the interior of that defensive line. They build on edge rushers, too. They want to get after the quarterback. Sure, they want to protect their quarterback with their offensive line. But when it comes to this Eagles team, it's always been about the offensive defensive line. But when you talk about the defense, I think if Jalen Carter has a Pro Bowl year, this Eagles defense is going to be, at the worst, the top 10 defense in the NFL. If Jalen Carter gets that push up the middle, if Jalen Carter is able to take advantage of instances where Jordan Davis is getting double-teamed, and Jalen Carter can get after the quarterback, and then he's opening up things for guys on the outside as well, I think that will change everything. Because Jordan Davis will have to take up a lot of those double teams. Jalen Carter will have to cash in. I think Jalen Carter will get the sexy numbers. I think Jordan Davis will be the guy on the stat sheet. You're like, oh, geez, did he even play? And it's like, did you watch him? How many times he was double teamed, triple teamed, helping guys out? Did you watch how many times that happened? But I think Jalen Carter is going to be the guy to get you maybe 9 sacks this year. From a defensive tackle standpoint, that's pretty damn good. If he flourishes this year, I think the entire defense flourishes. So that for me is going to be a huge thing. And if they do go back into the quarters positions coverage that Vic Fangio is so known for, then you're going to need that push up front to make sure that you get to the quarterback. And I think that all starts with Jalen Carter.
Is it fair to say that although Jalen Carter's success is directly tied to the Eagles' success, is it fair to say that Jordan Davis's success is the nexus of this defense? Because again, you mentioned how Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter's going to eat on one-on-ones, but Jordan Davis, you got to eat up space. You got to take on double teams. Your conditioning has to be in top shape.
Yeah,
so,
and again, going into this year, I agree with what you're saying. But Jordan Davis, I think that's just who he's built to be. I don't think Jordan Davis is built to get after the quarterback and get sacks, or I don't see him having a similar career to Fletcher Cox. Maybe in the last 3 or 4 years of Fletcher Cox in the NFL, maybe you'll see a little bit of that. But I think Jordan Davis is built to just be take on 2 members of that offensive line and make sure somebody else is getting the flashy numbers. And if he does that with great consistency, then I think you're going to see a lot. I think going into this season, I know he's going to get those double teams. And if they shift it and they try to go over to Jalen Carter, well, then, Jordan Davis is going to eat. But I think it's all going to come down to Jalen Carter cashing in. And one of the things that Vic Fangio talked about a couple of weeks ago was, a lot of guys get there. They get to the quarterback, but they don't get him down. The quarterback sidesteps them. The quarterback pump fakes them. The quarterback slips out of a tackle. Jalen Carter's got to be there to finish. There is something to finishing. It's not just about getting to the spot. It's not practice where you just touch the quarterback in the red shirt and he's done. It's the real thing. So Jalen Carter's able to do that. This defense is going to look a hell of a lot better, because then you're also not just focusing on Jordan Davis. You're also focusing on Jalen Carter. And then Bryce Huff gets to go going on those passing downs a hell of a lot more. And hopefully, elevate his play to not just a 40% snap guy, but the 71% snap guy that Hassan Reddick was. So everything, if Jalen Carter can get there and finish and be that threat every single time, that opens up so many doors for this Eagles defense as a whole.
Give me your perspective on Nolan Smith. His name has been through the wire a lot throughout training camp and preseason. Some people are still optimistic about him. Some people are already ready to call him a bust. I'm not quite there yet at all. I want to get your perspective on Nolan Smith because, again, you mentioned how finishing is important. There's an art to finishing. And throughout the preseason, he has 2 sacks through 3 games, right? He's shown an ability to finish when given the opportunity. But when you think about how he got to the destination, the first sack in that Ravens game coming off the line untouched, the left tackle didn't even see you coming, 3rd string, 2nd string left tackle, how much stock can I put into that? And then the Patriots game, you run into a double team, you get chipped, basically knocked into the path of the quarterback, yet you still finish. You get the sack. How much stock do you put into those performances? And give me your overall perspective on Nolan Smith right now and his upside.
My opinion of Nolan Smith hasn't changed for the last 6 months. And my opinion in the offseason was that he's not in my immediate plans for this Eagles defense. I mean, sure, you want to develop him? Yeah, he's a first-round pick. And you know who Nolan Smith has to be extremely grateful for? Jalen Carter. Because if Jalen Carter didn't exist, then we'd all be pissed off about Nolan Smith and his lack of production in his rookie season.
What?
People don't forget. Exactly. People forget that Nolan Smith, after his first preseason game, was addressed to the media, and he was talking about how hungry he is to play. Oh, man, I'm hungry. You got to eat off the floor. He's like, my old coach used to tell me, you got to eat off the floor. And in that same press conference where everyone ran with that quote about how hungry he is, he also mentioned somebody asked him, like, somebody knew something about his shoulder. And they're like, what about that shoulder? And he's like, oh, sometimes it works, sometimes it wasn't. It's my baby. And I'm like, what? What was that? Are you a 10-year veteran or are you a rookie? You're talking about your shoulder sometimes not working? Then in the offseason, he had his shoulder, I believe, scoped. And I went and thought back to Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean was a 3rd-round pick, could have very well easily been a 2nd-round pick. But because of a shoulder report or a report on his shoulder, he fell to the 3rd round. Nolan Smith somehow with a shoulder that picked when it worked and when it didn't was a 1st-round pick. Make that make sense to me. And then I saw nothing. I saw nothing from him in his rookie season. Go out there and look like a guy that looked like he was about to be hell unleashed. And then this offseason, I haven't seen anything. Seems like a good dude. Seems like he's willing to work. But he's got to go out there and show me something. I didn't see anything from him his rookie year. I didn't see anything. But the 2 sacks, great. The 2nd sack, the fact that he was bumped a little bit and kept his feet and finished, normally that doesn't show me anything. But with Nolan Smith, who was a straight speed guy, it showed me a little bit that he at least kept his feet while he was getting chipped a little bit.
Hey, reasonable. He definitely has some pressure mounting on his shoulders. The Eagles are gravely dependent on his production and his overall success with the Philadelphia Eagles. I just got a couple more for you, Farzi. You've given me so much time and so much insight. The last thing I want to do is take advantage of it. I really do appreciate you, my friend. I just got a couple more for you.
Sure.
Last one on the defensive side of the ball. And this one's a little bit more fun, a little lighter.
Okay.
Who's your sleeper to have a breakout 2024 season? Not someone that we always – who's that underrated guy that you're looking to take that next step in their development and production?
I mean, am I counting Milton Williams in this? Or do you want someone even more under the radar? Because there's two big, sexy names on the interior defensive line, but Milton Williams is right there, as far as I'm concerned, as that number 3 guy that's under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like we talk about Milton a lot. I feel like, you know what it is? I feel like we all know Milton was pretty good. It was just a matter of him getting his opportunity, right?
Okay.
Give me someone who's a little bit more on the fringe.
There is a curiosity, and I know he could be a starter, but he's a first-year Eagle. I don't know what it is about Zach Bond, but since he got here, Vic Fangio has done nothing but sing his praises. And this is a guy that's a special teamer out of New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And I think if the Eagles have their druthers, then it's Dean and White as their number 1 and 2 linebackers. But Zach Bond intrigues me, not just for the fact of playing special teams, but for the fact that Vic Fangio seemed enamored with him. There was something that went on with him watching film on the Saints that Vic Fangio just thought, there's something here that I can use. There's definitely speed. There's definitely smarts. But if I put him in the right position to make plays in my defense, he could make a lot of plays in my defense. So that is intriguing. And I don't think too many people are thinking about him right now as a starting outside linebacker next to Devin White. After that, I am pretty intrigued with Booker. Watching him, he kind of had a tenacious attitude. Johnson's another guy in training camp and in the preseason that wasn't afraid to get into the backfield. Both those guys kind of have tenacious attitudes on the defensive line that I think everyone knows that you need. They have that snarl about them. They'll get hit, they'll get back up, then they'll force the ball loose, stuff like that. There's a certain attitude and edge about those two players that I think Vic Fangio is going to love, because if those guys have their success, not to the degree, but similarly to a Jalen Carter or a Jordan Davis on the inside, if those guys have success, then those are guys that you don't have to worry about dialing up blitzes for those guys to get penetration or for you as a defense to get after the quarterback. So if those guys continue to be tenacious like you saw in the preseason and rush the passer, pressure him, disrupt the ball in some way, shape, or form, then you're going to be looking at some unexpected guys that you only really learned about in the preseason having an impact on the regular season. So those are probably the two most under the radar guys in Johnson and Booker that could really have their stock rise in the early goings of the preseason, in the early goings of the season.
Okay, sounds good to me. Final question for you, Farzi. Give me your assessment of the current state of the NFC East, the NFC, and should the Philadelphia Eagles be considered serious Super Bowl contenders despite the setback in 2023?
Absolutely. I'll start with the Giants. To me, I can't respect the team that has Daniel Jones as their quarterback. There are certain people that I just look at and I just go, what? No, this guy, what? Are you serious about this? They're going through a transition, obviously.
But Farzi, he grew a beard. You should take him more seriously now. I mean, he's part of the club, right?
As a bearded man, he should get the hell out. If you have a full head of hair, you're growing a beard, get out of here. That's what I say. Anyway, so the Giants don't scare me. The Commanders I find interesting because I write them off every single year. It's like I'll write the Commanders off like they don't even exist. And then I'll go, the Cowboys are going to be good in the regular season. They're going to choke late. That's what they do. Choke in the playoffs. But I am looking at Daniels and looking at guys like that on the Commanders and changes they've made and ownership, obviously. I know we're all too familiar with Josh Harris here in Philadelphia, but it is a different regime. And Dan Quinn's a good football coach. And Cliff Kingsbury is a good offensive coordinator that was a little over his skis with the Arizona Cardinals. So they're going through a similar thing other than the head coach change than we're going through here in Philadelphia. So I think they're going to be a thorn in the Eagles' side, and I always try to acknowledge that going into the season. That Commanders figure out a way to be a thorn in the Eagles' side. And I know the Eagles were 2-0 against them last year, but those weren't easy wins. The Cowboys and the Eagles, that's really what I think it's going to come down to. Even with Daniels reviving things in Washington, I don't think he's going to come out of the gate and just be a Pro Bowl quarterback and dominate. I think there's going to be a learning curve there. I don't see him as C.J. Stroud was with the Texans. So for me, I don't take the Commanders as serious. But the Cowboys, they're the team that everybody's focused on. The Eagles know the focus is on that. The Cowboys know the focus is on that matchup. We all know as a fan base the focus is on that matchup. And the Cowboys are still a very good football team. So although I see them choking every single year, I look at them winning against the Eagles in the regular season as adorable because it gets their hopes up so high. And then the Eagles just make sure they crash and burn by the time the end of the season comes around. So for me, I think it's the Eagles division. The Eagles are stacked. Offensively speaking, everywhere you look, they're stacked. And you got a play caller that has, I mean, think about this. Jalen Hurts in the past has needed 2 years in a system. There is not that excuse this year with Kellen Moore, who's got more experience than all the coordinators he's played for combined going into this season. On a defensive standpoint, Vic Fangio, I don't even need to point it out, but he's got far more experience than Jonathan Gannon and Sean Desai taking over this defense. He's got 20 years. You're talking about 25 years of coordinator experience in the positions that they are now. That's wild to me. So this might be the best coached team we've ever seen of the Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni era. And you combine that with the most talented team we have seen, I think things are shaping up pretty easy for the Eagles to be winning this NFC East. I have them as a clear-cut number one to win the NFC East.
Farzy, my friend, it's always a fun time when we speak. You've given me so much to sink my teeth into. You've given the people, right? You've given the people so much of yourself over these past over a decade, right? Of just doing content and just being in this industry, my friend. And you've stood tall through all the adversity that you and I both have experienced in our own respective ways. But my friend, before you get out of here, please promote your shows. Promote what you're working on. Please promote the pre and post game show. Anything that people need to know about what you're connected to, please let them know right now how they can find it.
Farzy Show. Catch me on the Farzy Show on the YouTube channel, the Farzy Show. You can also catch me on Locked On Sports Philadelphia. Locked On Sports Philadelphia for all your Phillies postcast needs. After every Phillies game, I give you 30 minutes. We talk Phillies on Locked On Sports Philadelphia. So make sure you like and subscribe to the Farzy Show. Like and subscribe to Locked On Sports Philadelphia. Also give you your Sixers content there as well for your 76ers postcasts. And then make sure you like and subscribe to the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel, where myself, Derek Gunn, and Seth Joyner will give you your Parks Casino pre- and post-game show brought to you by Pond Lee Hockey. Other than that, I'm sure there's a VHS tape somewhere of me in the second grade play. So you could see me when I was in second grade. I think I was the Big Bad Wolf that year in the Three Piggy Opera, so that was pretty impressive. I was on Fox 29 this morning. I played one game with the Harlem Globetrotters. And not as a Washington General, thank you. I flew in an F-16. I might be in your backyard right now. Whoever's listening, I might be in your backyard right now. You never know. And, that pretty much covers it all.
Did you mention that you are the at-home chef and you are the man with the plan in the kitchen? I'll tell you that.
I'm gonna send you some pictures of the braciole I'm making, the chicken cutlet, all that type jazz, friend.
Farzy, once again, I really do appreciate your time. I appreciate the effort and the tenacity that you bring every time you speak, my friend. It's always good talking to you. Got a lot of love for you, my friend.
Back at you, brother. Hey, just make sure you send me my wooden samurai sword before the next time we talk.
I'll think about it. Farzy, my friend, you take care. Godspeed, sir.
All right, my love to everybody in your circle, buddy.
Yes, sir. Shout out to my man Farzy, man. He's one of one. Does amazing work doing the work that he does do. The Farzy Show, the new pre and post game show, hosted by Bet Parks Casino, sponsored by the Pond Lee Hockey firm. Man, oh man, You guys see the energy Farzi brings every time he speaks, man. And I told you guys I had a special guest, somebody that I worked with before, someone that I trust, someone that's always given me a lot of insight, someone who's always been very open to me and available to me. So once again, shout out to my man Mark Farzetta, also known as Farzi. Go check him out on the Farzi Show. Go check him out every game day with Seth Joyner and Derek Gunn, covering your Philadelphia Eagles pre and post game, and it's straight like that. Now, Eagles fans, don't go away. We still have more to talk about. I still have a whole slate of content that I want to address with you guys, right? Before Farzi got here, we briefly touched on the defensive line and the defensive tackle room. We touched on the Eagles signing Byron Young, who made waivers by being released by the Las Vegas Raiders, right? 23 years old, former third-round pick, was drafted last year. This kid still has a ton of football to prove himself, right? But let's take it a step further, because based off of everyone's concerns here, and I've been reading your live chats, by the way. I pay attention to you guys very closely. And the fact of the matter is, based off of your guys' feelings, there's clearly enough reasonable doubt to question if the Eagles' defensive line is ready to dominate in 2024. You guys have been very on edge about this defensive line, and I understand it. And I'm not going to sit here and act like your findings are unfounded, or your concerns are unfounded, rather, right? Because, again, at the end of the day, that defensive line was not dominant last year on a consistent basis. As a matter of fact, that defensive line took a huge step back in terms of producing sacks and getting to the quarterback, and it also took a huge step back in terms of stopping the run. That's one of my bigger concerns this year, not getting to the quarterback. My biggest concern when it comes to the Eagles' defensive line is, can we consistently stop the run? Can we at least be a top 10 run defense? And despite, like I said, despite the bevy, the plethora of talent that exists throughout this Eagles defensive line, there are also plenty of questions and concerns sprinkled in there as well, especially since you lose Fletcher Cox to retirement, especially when you've parted ways with your most productive defensive player over the past 2 seasons in Hassan Reddick. These two brothers have arguably been your most productive, your best players, not just on the defensive line, but on the defense as a whole over the past 2 seasons. That's not something you can easily write off or something that you can easily replace. Yet, this is what they're going to attempt to do. The changing of the guard is officially here. And Jalen Carter, like Farzi mentioned, Jalen Carter has to have a great season, right? Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, they have to take that next step in their development. So much is hinging on the success of this defensive line. But before we get into the positives, right, because you guys know I'm very optimistic about certain things when it comes to this team, but I also have to exercise some level of pragmatism. I have to be realistic and acknowledge what we do know. I have to acknowledge what we have seen. I have to acknowledge what we have experienced. So again, before we get to the positives, let's address and lay out the various forms of reasonable doubt that exist. Because again, I'm basing it off of your guys' sentiment. I pay attention to when you guys speak. I pay attention to when you guys bloviate about how you feel about this team. Let's get to the reasonable doubt here. Let's get to the concerns. Let's get to what we know, what we've seen, what we've experienced. Before we do so, make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show. Really do appreciate you guys for being here for as long as you guys have. I really do appreciate you guys for being great hosts to our man Mark Farzetta, Please smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed. That like button is currency. It's the lifeblood of the YouTube space. Without that like button being hit, the content won't move. And without the content being moved, new people won't watch the show. And if new people can't watch the show, Damn it, we can't eat as content creators. So understand your power as a consumer. Understand your power as a viewer, as a subscriber, as a supporter. The like button is free. Smash that like button, you guys. Make sure you are subscribed to the show, especially and only if you like what you hear, like what you see, like what you're feeling. Even if we agree or disagree, do you respect the game? Do you respect the hustle? Smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Now, let's get to the various forms of reasonable doubt that exist on this defensive line. Let's start with the name that many of you guys love to love and also love to hate. Jordan Davis. The biggest question is surrounding Jordan Davis. Will he be able to prove doubters wrong and show why he was drafted? Or show why he was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles, where he was drafted at? Can Jordan Davis take that next step in terms of his conditioning? We've seen Jordan Davis play at a very high level. We've experienced it. We've seen it. Again, we're only speaking about what we've seen, what we've experienced. I want to speak tangibly here. We've seen Jordan Davis play at a very high level. We've seen that when Davis plays well, when his conditioning is in tip-top shape, when that motor is running hot, that defensive line is a force to be reckoned with. And the Philadelphia Eagles, again, tangible, right? The first half of that season, prior to the bye week, they were the #1 run defense in the NFL by a large margin. And then after the bye week, after that Chiefs game, after that Bills game, you can even throw those games in, as a matter of fact. After the bye week, the Philadelphia Eagles became one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. That's not happenstance. That's not coincidence. That's a bigger problem than just one gentleman. That's a team issue. That's a coaching issue. But keeping it on Jordan Davis, he is the linchpin of this defense. Jordan Davis's success is directly tied to the overall success of this defense. This defense will not get to where it's supposed to be if Jordan Davis is not carrying his load, if he's not doing his job to the best of his ability. You got to be in shape, young man. Your conditioning has to be in top shape, brother. Your nutrition has to be apex. Has to be. You dig what I'm saying? Jordan Davis is somebody that we know is talented. We know that when he's on, my God, is he on. But you got to show us over the course of a 17-game season and then take that into the playoffs. Moving on from Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Farzi brought him up. Farzi is putting a lot of pressure on Jalen Carter's shoulders, right? He believes that Jalen Carter is the catalyst or the nucleus of this defense. And one could argue so. He is definitely the future of the defensive line. He's the now as well. He's arguably the most talented player on that defense, arguably. And he's arguably the most dynamic, the most destructive, the most chaotic, right? He can wreak the most havoc, right? He has potential to be one of the best defensive linemen that we've seen in Philadelphia Eagles history because of the talent. Now, again, he has to prove that. We have legends who've laid the bedrock, legends who've laid the legacy, who've laid the foundation in this organization when it comes to defensive line play. So now, Jalen Carter, will that be you? Do you have that fervor? Do you have that animosity, that animus to take the head off of the opponent? Will the baby rhino become a full-fledged adult? And I say that with respect because Jordan Davis has made it a point to be locked in on football. Jalen Carter has made it a point to be fully locked in on football. Jalen Carter has given us no doubt to his commitment to this football team. No doubt whatsoever. We believe Jalen Carter has all the tools to be one of the best, if not the best, defensive tackle in this NFL. But he has to prove it. What's the next step? What does it look like for a guy like Jalen Carter? Can he be everything we need him to be, especially now that Fletcher Cox is gone? Jalen Carter is the future of this defensive line by talent, and by legacy. Can he get it done? He was very productive in year one. Sort of tailed off towards the back end of the season, like everybody else did. He was second in the running for Rookie of the Year or Defensive Rookie of the Year, behind Kobe, behind that Rams D lineman. I think his name Kobe something. I can't remember. Was it Kobe Turner? Whatever. Kobe Williams? I don't know his name. But regardless, Jalen Carter, brother, the world is your oyster. Take what you want. Take no prisoners. The ops, behead them. Put it on a pike. It's time to kill or be killed. That's where we are now. Moving on from Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, let's get to another brother who has pressure mounting on him. And again, we're only dealing with what we know. We're only dealing in the tangible, right? We're dealing in the reasonable doubt that exists, despite our optimism. Bryce Huff, brother, 10 sacks last season. Great. You did that on about 42% of the defensive snaps that were available to you. You were a third down menace. You were a pass rush menace. You were dominating whoever they put in front of you. But now, you're in Philadelphia. And on top of that, you got your money. $51 million over the course of 3 seasons. That's an average salary of $17 million per season. Good brother. You gotta show us why they invested in you long term the way they have. You gotta show that you're completely capable of being a 3-down menace, not just a third down menace, a 3-down, first, second, and third down menace. I know some people question whether or not can he be a legitimate force in run defense. He's shown flashes throughout training camp and preseason. Again, we're dealing in the tangible. We're dealing with what we've seen. We've seen Bryce Huff show flashes in run defense. We've seen it. Can that translate over the course of a full football game? Can you give us 60 minutes of dominance? Being that brick wall that nobody can run through. He's very athletic. He's very talented. We know he can get to the quarterback. How consistent can you be in run defense? I think that's the multi-million-dollar question. That is the $51 million question. It all remains to be seen. And on top of that, essentially, you're filling in for Hassan Reddick. You're the Hassan Reddick replacement. You and Nolan. And we're going to talk about Nolan later on. We're almost there. But Bryce Huff, they basically gave you the keys and said, listen, we're expecting you to be our new Hassan Reddick. A lot of pressure, especially knowing what Hassan Reddick has done, what he's established in this NFL over the course of 4 or 5 seasons. Very productive player, very dominant player, very dynamic player. Still fighting for his money. Hopefully he gets it wherever he gets it from. But Bryce Huff, you're in Philadelphia now. It's time for you to show why they brought you here, why they invested in you that kind of money. $51 million ain't no joke. $17 million a season ain't no joke. We'll see. We'll see if he can carry the water. And I want to move on to another player. Someone who we all have had high hopes for. Someone that we always felt had the toolkit, the skill set to get whatever he wanted, no matter who was in front of him. And that's Josh Sweat. Sweaty J. You had a career year in 2022, brother. 11 sacks. You were a force to be reckoned with. Everybody had a career year, by the way, that year. But speaking solely on you, you had a career year, my friend, in 2022, and then you took a major step back in 2023. Over the course of the final, 6 or 7 games, no sacks at all. No sacks at all. Over the course of the first 9 games, he got 6.5 sacks. Over the course of the final 6, or final 7, or final 8, no sacks. Nowhere to be found. Now, I want to give Sweat a little bit of bail here. Not entirely his fault. They had that man playing a career high in defensive snaps. The defensive rotation on the edge was awful. They did not have one. They didn't give Nolan Smith enough snaps. They didn't give Brandon Graham enough snaps. They didn't give Patrick Johnson enough snaps. They did nothing to inject any sort of energy into that defensive line, in particular the edge. Haason Reddick and Josh Sweat, I believe, played north of 80% of the defensive snaps. Josh Sweat has never done that before in his career. Never. Josh Sweat is better optimized when you keep him in that 55 to 65 range. And that's why it's so important for this next man I'm about to mention to do his job. This is why it's so important for Nolan Smith to be the player that we need him to be, that we expect him to be. This is not a Nolan Smith bashing session for some of you guys who are Nolan Smith apologists. This is simply me acknowledging the reality that Nolan Smith, over the course of 17 games being available, only gave you 1 sack. And again, he didn't really get many snaps at all. Wasn't really put in too many situations to succeed. So I don't put the rookie year on him, per se. I don't kill Nolan Smith for his rookie season. I don't kill anybody for their rookie season. I don't give anybody too many flowers, and I don't give them too many thorns for their rookie season. Because anything can happen. You may get fortunate based off of circumstance. And you may fall into misfortune because of circumstance. So now, Nolan, you enter year 2. You're going to be getting way more snaps now that Haason Reddick is gone. You are in the rotation. You are Josh Sweat's swingman. Wherever they need you, you got to go in and you got to wreak havoc. Now, granted, 2 sacks through 3 preseason games, you have to respect that. You have to appreciate that. But you also have to take it with a grain of salt because of how he got them. But I'm not down on Nolan, and I'm not giving up on him. I think Nolan is entering this season with some pressure on him because this Eagles team, this defense, they need his production. Sorry about that, you guys. Excuse me. Got a little cough. They need Nolan Smith's production desperately. So we'll see what he has. We'll see what he brings to the table. The rotation is such. I believe Jalyx Hunt will be rotating for Bryce Huff, and I believe Nolan Smith will be rotating for Josh Sweat. And then BG, he's going to get him where he fits in. He can play all up and down that D-line. BG can play 3 technique. He can play 2-eye. He can play 5 tech. BG can do whatever you need him to do. He has that kind of experience. So I don't look at BG as somebody that I question. If anything, it's just a matter of, hey, BG, empty the tank. Cut the cord. No parachute. It's time to go in head first, brother. It's time to just lay it all out there. It's time to let it all hang out. Let your nuts hang. This is your last season. Let them know why you've been here for 15 years. Let them know why you're a Super Bowl champion. Let them know why you deserve reverence. Let them know why you will go down in the Philadelphia Eagles Hall of Fame. Let them know why your number will be retired. I think BG is going to literally dump this season. I think he's going to just empty the gas tank. Cut the brake line. As a matter of fact, remove the brake pedal. Remove the rear view mirror. Remove the side mirrors. All I want is the windshield, and I want nitrous in that motherfucker. We going forward. And I think BG going to let it all hang out this year. That's how I'm feeling about BG. And now I'm going to transition to Milton Williams, somebody who's entering a contract season, somebody who's looking to get paid, somebody who's looking to prove that he deserves starting reps in this league. Now, I don't know what Milton Williams' future holds beyond this season. Will the Eagles extend him? It's a possibility. Will somebody pay him big money and lure him away from the Eagles? It's a possibility. But regardless, Milton Williams has to come in and prove that. He has to come in and prove that, hey, I just been waiting my turn. Because Fletcher Cox, you know, the OG, he ain't here no more. So that means more snaps for Jalen Carter, more snaps for Jordan Davis, more snaps for Milton Williams. You dig me? And we all like Milton Williams. We all feel like Milton Williams is talented. It's just been waiting his turn. It's your turn, brother. Shooter's going to shoot. Kill or be killed. Let them know. It's going to be time to cut that check. I want Milton Williams to make it so hard for the Philadelphia Eagles to pay him. I know that may sound counterproductive to y'all or counterintuitive, but I want Milton Williams to ball out so crazy. I want the Philadelphia Eagles to say, you know what, Milton, we can't afford you. That's the kind of season I want from Milton. It's straight like that. And then obviously you have your rotational guys. I mentioned Jalyx earlier, rookie. Again, always got to monitor and curb your expectations when it comes to rookies. But Jalyx has shown a level of athleticism and instincts and ability to drop back in coverage that we really like. We love the speed off the edge. We love how much power he has, right? Moro Ojomo having a hell of a training camp and preseason. Can it translate to the regular season? I think it will. A lot of people have been high on him. Milton Williams has spoken highly of Moro Ojomo. He's not the only one, though. A lot of people have really spoken that Moro Ojomo has really turned the corner, and they're looking for him to have a great season as well. So Moro Ojomo and Milton Williams are first man up in that rotation. Then you brought in Byron Young, right? How will he fit in? That all remains to be seen. And then you elevated Thomas Booker, the D tackle who earned his spot on his roster. What's the next step for him? How will he fit into this rotation? When he does get his opportunity, can we trust him? It's going to come down to that. And then Patrick Johnson, a player who's been a developmental piece for the Philadelphia Eagles and who has regularly made the roster for the Philadelphia Eagles and who has come in and really given us something to hope for throughout training camp and preseason. I think Patrick Johnson has taken another step in his development as well. We just got to see it over the course of a 17-game season. I think this is why the Philadelphia Eagles went 6 deep on the D tackles. I think this is why the Philadelphia Eagles went 6 deep on the edge, because you need rotation. You need guys to get their rest. You need guys to be at their pinnacle. This is why the Philadelphia Eagles went heavy on defense when it came to building this 53-man roster. So I believe, although I've given you guys so much reasonable doubt, so much information as it pertains to why you may have your concerns, because again, your concerns are reasonable. I will not sit here and lie to you guys and say there is pressure on this D-line and we need them to perform at a high level in run defense when it comes to getting to the quarterback. But also keep in mind, with Vic Fangio being at the helm of this defense, there will be unique ways in how this Philadelphia Eagles defense generates pressure. This pressure that we speak of, these sacks that we also desire, will not strictly be produced by the defensive line. Because of Vic Fangio's football acumen, I believe that pressure and sacks that will be generated in a variety of ways. I expect this defense to generate pressure more so schematically than us relying so much on talent in years past. That's not to say the talent isn't there, because I think this D-line is talented. They just got to prove it and show us just how talented they are. I think we're going to see pressure generated in a variety of ways that includes schematically and when it comes to talent, which is going to be amazing. We're going to see linebackers coming down. We're going to see safeties and corners coming down. We're going to see so much movement, so much disguising. Pressure and sacks will be generated by far more than just your defensive line. I believe that. I strongly do. We're going to end this season with the Philadelphia Eagles having, 55, 60 sacks, and we're going to say, damn, where'd it come from? You're going to see 5 sacks here, 8 sacks there, 4 sacks there, 10 sacks there, 2 sacks. You're going to see it. You're going to see a bevy of players have sacks, safeties and corners and linebackers. But I think the people who have to lead the charge, the players who have to lead the charge when it comes to getting to the quarterback, Jalen Carter, Bryce Huff, Josh Sweat. Those 3 players have to lead the charge. Jalen Carter, Bryce Huff, and Josh Sweat should lead this team in sacks. Point blank, period. So, despite the amount of reasonable doubt that I have explained to you guys, that I've shared with you guys, that you all are also feeling in your hearts, despite that reasonable doubt, I still believe the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line has a chance to win in the court of public opinion. And that brings me to my next topic. And before we do so, make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are also subscribed to the show, especially if you're new. I really, really do hope you guys are enjoying what you're hearing, enjoying what you're feeling, enjoying the energy that I bring here. I live for this. I love this craft. I love this space. I love this arena. Make sure you guys stay engaged. Don't go anywhere. The show only gets better. And this is our final segment of the day. And similarly, as we spoke yesterday about the secondary, as it pertains to the opposition that they're going to have to deal with throughout the first 8 weeks of the season, I want to get into the opposition, the quarterbacks and the running backs that this defensive line is going to have to deal with over the first 8 weeks of the season. But before I do so, I want to get to your comments. Smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show. We have 96 likes. We have over 100. We have 130 people in the building. Something's not mathing. Something's not adding up, you guys. 96 people hit the like button. 132 viewers or 133. Come on, you guys. Lock in. Engage. Submit. I appreciate you guys. As always, love. Jay says, people sleep on Davis. Jalen Carter and Davis are going to have a monster year. Brother, I hope so. I hope so much. What's going on, Ray Lester? He says, I think if we have a good rotation of talent, it will be an improvement over that weak D-line we had from last season. I agree with you 100%. 757 CJ says, agreed, Tone. Go Birds. Linebackers and safeties will have sacks in addition to the D-line. I think Jalen Carter is going to go crazy in his second year. Man, I hope so. I hope so. Eagles fan says, we overvalue CJ. I don't care for him like y'all do. Hey, we all got our opinions, my friend. We all got our opinions. I will not take it from you, even though I disagree. Jay also says, Huff going to go crazy too. Don't sleep on the interior and the edge. Defense going to be serious this year. Wait till Sydney get back. We loaded, fully loaded. Man, I love your optimism, my friend. They still have questions to answer. Wiz J says, Johnson has come a long way. They developed him like Sweat. Yeah, Patrick Johnson has come a long way, man. He really has. Ray Lester says, I hope Patrick Johnson is given a chance to play. I think he will. Ray Lester says, I also don't expect much from Jalyx Hunt, but I do expect a lot from Smith. Nolan Smith, that is. Yeah, I understand your perspective, my friend. I definitely understand. Rookies, you got to curb your expectations. Nolan Smith, you're in year 2. Time to take that next step. Eagles fan says, Ojomo will be Milton's replacement. Yeah, they're saying more Ojomo's really came on. So we'll see if he'll be able to translate that to the regular season. He will definitely be seeing a lot of grass time this season. My man, Weapon X Media, my guy. He says, smash the like button, people. It's my man. Shout out to him. Wiz J says, I like the rotation we have with Hunt, Huff, Graham, Smith, and Sweat. Even Johnson. Yeah, that's a pretty good rotation, right? In terms of youth, talent, veteran leadership. I like it. Brian Stetcher, my man. Welcome to the show, sir. He says, I think Josh Sweat and Bryce Huff will be better. I trust them more than Nolan Smith right now. I understand that. I very much understand that. Both of those players have shown they can do it on the NFL level. Nolan Smith still got to prove that. Fanny says, I love Sweaty, and I hope he does well. Nick N says, for $51 million, he better show up. Yeah, Bryce Huff getting paid buku chips. He better show up. He better move that dope. You know what I'm saying? Fanny says last year we had issues of getting off the field on fourth downs and getting our turnovers on downs as well. Hopefully we don't have that issue this year. Great point by you, Fanny. We struggled on third down. We struggled on fourth down. It got to a point where teams were so confident that they can just take advantage of us on fourth down. We saw that in so many matchups with the Washington Commanders. They didn't care. Eagles fan says this defense is built around the interior. Absolutely. Keisha White, what's going on, girly? Hope all is well with you. Philly 007 says, damn, now Sills is shaking my head. My two favorite shows at 2 p.m. Hey, man, take your pick. You got options. Like I said, everybody can eat on this thing. Everybody can eat in this industry. Take your pick. Brian Stetcher says Seattle never had the D-line like the Eagles do. So why say Clint Hurt stinks when they haven't started yet with the Eagles? Yeah, man. I don't know why people are saying. I saw somebody put that in the live chat. That was very weird. It was very random, very innocuous. I didn't really understand where that came from. All of a sudden, Clint Hurt stinks. That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Fanny says, who was the black sheep of the D-line this year? Is it more than one player? When you say black sheep, do you mean like an outcast? Do you mean someone we're going to keep our eye on? Is it someone that's forgotten? If I'm taking it as someone who's a forgotten man, it may be BG. I feel like BG is a forgotten man on this D-line because he's a 15-year vet and we don't think twice about him. But BG is going to empty the tank this year. Fanny Eagles fans also says, you already know my concerns. Last year we couldn't blitz, we couldn't tackle, we couldn't guard the sticks. It was horrible. You're so right. Philly 007 says, Jordan Davis should have 11 tackles for loss. Yeah, especially in run defense, man. He should have at least 10 of them things. Twiz says, outside of Lane and Goddard, we are 27 and younger. Facts. Jordan Coughlin says, Tone was good, my guy. Much love, dog. Fly Eagles fly. You already know, Jordan. Thank you for being here. Cameron Holmes. He says, you think the Eagles will trade Dallas Goedert next year if he struggles to stay healthy? He's getting up there. Man, you bring up a good point. You know, he's already dealing with some sort of abdomen or oblique injury, which is frustrating. So I wouldn't put it past the Philadelphia Eagles to think about Dallas Goedert's future. Let's see here. See what we got. Bruce Banner says the defense is my favorite side of the ball. Yeah, it's definitely the most entertaining for sure. It's going to be in terms of just seeing how these guys play and develop. Nick N says, minus Jalen Carter, the D-line is one big question mark. Haven't heard Josh Short's name all summer. Fanny says, the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed with a beach towel. Damn. Even though she's right. Let's see. All right. Let's get to my next topic. Oh, hold on 1 second. Nico and Stephen Share, Crow Killer. What's going on, y'all? Mr. Tone, enjoying the talk on defense. Heard about offense. Not enough on this. Thank you. Shout out to Sarah. What's going on, girl? Hope you're doing well. Fitness Warrior. What's good, brother? Welcome to the show. Ray Lester, you funny, man. Rock the Artist. What's going on, big dog? Kizzy from Bama says, pick it in the 5th. Go get Reddick back now. Yeah, that's a fleece, bro. Ain't nobody taking that deal. But I admire you. I admire your mindset, Kizzy. Ray Lester says CJ's mentality is a tone-setting element that we missed last season. I agree. I think his value goes far beyond just the tangible, right? It's the intangibles. It's his commitment to winning. It's his commitment to demanding the most out of his teammates, right? Just having that guy on your team that's going to talk trash regardless. That guy that just instills confidence in you in the state of war. You gotta give credit to that. You gotta give credit to that. And you got to place value on that. Barrett Lott, welcome to the show. He says, I feel like people aren't giving Nolan a fair shake. He wasn't given enough snaps nor put in the right positions last year. This will be his telltale year. Yeah, you're up to something, Barrett, or you're on to something. He wasn't given a fair shake last year, So I'm trying to, reserve my intense judgment, but I am acknowledging what I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis. Canadian Cat, what's going on? He says we cannot have so many missed tackles this year. Facts, bro. Facts. It's like the way we tackled last year was awful. It was awful. Wiz J says Jordan Davis is the key. If he gets that constant push, this D line will be top. Whatever. All right. Let's get to the final topic of the day, you guys. Once again, and make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are locked in. My man Mike Carl's in the building. Was good. He says, just got back from a work trip to Chicago, and it seems like, 1, people hate Nick Sirianni. 2, they don't think Hurts deserves the weapon he has. Bruh, people have been hating on Jalen Hurts since he got in the NFL. See, this is what happens, bro. When you have people, all these evaluators and these prognosticators who want to make these predictions about players' careers, and then when they get proven wrong, they don't want to be told that they were wrong. They don't want to admit that they were wrong. They don't want to look themselves in the mirror. They don't want to look themselves in the mirror and say, you know what? Hey, that kid's pretty good. And I was wrong about him. Does he have room to grow? Sure. But I was pretty wrong about that guy. And then when it comes to Nick Sirianni, I understand people's critique of him. But when it comes to just producing, when it comes to just winning, and when you got to put your feelings to the side and take your opinions to the side, and you just look at the raw numbers and what he's done, he wins games. At the end of the day, your feelings don't pay the bills. At the end of the day, your opinions don't win football games. But Nick Sirianni, he wins football games. It's the truth. No matter what people want, no matter if you want to disrespect him, if you want to say that he's a clipboard holder, he's a Harry Roseman pawn, he's a puppet, whatever you want to say about him. At the end of the day, he coaches his team up to win football games. And if he was such a terrible coach, this team would not win football games. There's something he's saying, there's something he's doing that's led to the record the Eagles have had while he's been the head coach. And you can nitpick why that's the case. I'll leave that up to you. But at the end of the day, he's the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. And his coaching record speaks for itself. Does he have a lot to prove this season? Absolutely. I'm not going to dismiss that. He may be coaching for his job this year. But that's just the nature of the game. That's the nature of being in Philadelphia. It's pressure that comes with it. Simple as that. Mike, thank you so much for being here, brother. I appreciate you, man. Glad you made it home safe from your work trip. Hope it went well. Hope it definitely went well, brother. Denton Prince said, great job, bro. Thank you so much, big dog. I appreciate the love. Really appreciate it. Trent Wright says, watching on lunch again. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Stay locked in, man. Ray Lester says, breed of one. Hurts is the truth. I feel that. Fitness Warrior says, it's crazy because all these anonymous people saying a lot of things. Of course, there's always the people that's liking to throw. They throw rocks and hide their hand, man. Or they throw in rocks from a glass house. You got to be careful of those people. Got to be careful of those people. All right, let's get to the final topic, you guys. It's the home stretch of the show. You guys are locked in to Chalk It Up Sports. where no matter if we win or we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. If you're new to the show, thank you for being here. I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II. I'm grateful that you guys have been here for a long time. Hopefully, you're not here for a short time, and hopefully, you stay for a good time. The show only gets better. We're entering our final segment of the show. I want to get to some of the opposition, some of the quarterbacks and the running backs that the Eagles' defensive line will be facing through the first 8 weeks of the 2024 NFL season. Let's start in week 1. You open the season with the Green Bay Packers in Brazil. You face Jordan Love, who's starting to come into his own. Jordan Love, who is a talented quarterback, but I believe people still need to monitor their love for the man. No pun intended. Jordan Love is getting so much praise. So much praise. It sounds like the Jalen Hurts 2022 season. All I say is, Jordan Love, brother, be careful. It's as quick as they love you, is as quick as they'll hate you. Don't let Jordan Love start off slow. Don't let the Packers have a 9-8 season. Or don't let the Packers lose the division. Don't let the Bears sneak up on them. Jordan Love, they will flip on you like they flipped on Jalen Hurts. I digress. Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs, this defensive line by the Philadelphia Eagles, will have a tall task because Jordan Love is starting to take shape. He's starting to show he can play this game. His game will eventually have to match the contract. Hopefully it can do that. But on Friday against the Philadelphia Eagles, they're going to have a tall task. Josh Jacobs is the real deal. But they've also taken a hit at the running back room. They've taken a hit. A.J. Dillon is out for the season. So now they've lost running back depth. Can Josh Jacobs carry the pill? Can he carry? Can he go for 25, 30 plus snaps if they so choose? Can his motor still run hot throughout that game? Will he run out of gas on the back end? It all remains to be seen. But Josh Jacobs has proven that he can carry the workload. He's done it for the Raiders. But will he be able to do it for the Green Bay Packers? We'll see. That Eagles defensive line has a tall task ahead of him with that running back and that quarterback. That's just the reality. Moving on to week 2. Week 2. Kirk Cousins, Bijan Robinson. I think the Eagles defensive line gets a break here in terms of the quarterback. Kirk Cousins, he can deliver the pill. Don't get it twisted. He can throw the ball. But he's never really been mobile. And now that he's coming off of an ACL tear, he's going to be even more limited in terms of his mobility. And a lot of people like to say, well, Kirk Cousins was never mobile anyway, so I don't expect him to fall off after that ACL tear. You see, when you tear your ACL or when you break something or whatever it may be, I've spoken to people who played this game before. It goes beyond just your skill set. It goes beyond just the recovery. It's about the rehabilitation, not only of your body, but the rehabilitation of your mind, rebuilding your confidence in the pocket, rebuilding your confidence on the football field. There are certain players out there that can't get out of their own heads, and they're afraid to make that one cut because they're afraid their knee's going to give out on them. A quarterback is afraid to stand tall in that pocket because he took that one hit that damn near ended his career, put him on the operating table. Kirk Cousins has a tall task ahead of him going up against this D-line at the end of the day. But he also has an offensive line that's pretty good. That Packers offensive line, middle of the pack, right? That Packers offensive line, middle of the pack. That Falcons offensive line, trending in the right direction. And then you got Bijan Robinson, a running back who's on the come up, who can do it in the passing game and in the running game. Two weeks back to back running backs you got to really pay attention to. And then you get to week 3, Derek Carr. I'm not worried about Derek Carr. I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm not worried about that Saints offensive line either. I'm not. But Alvin Kamara, If he can get in space, he's dangerous. If he can get any kind of hole, he's dangerous. So back-to-back weeks, 3 weeks in a row, you're going up against some top-tier running back talent. And then we get to week 4. Week 4, Baker Mayfield and Rashad White, the running back. And then that Buccaneers offensive line. There's talent sprinkled in, but as a whole, that offensive line isn't formidable as a whole. Baker Mayfield, you get pressure on him, you know what it is. You can catch him slipping. And then Rashad White, young running back who's talented, but I'm not sure he's a 3-down back. I'm not sure how dynamic he can be. I'm not sure how dangerous he can be. Moving on to week 6, because week 5 is a bye week for the Philadelphia Eagles. Week 6, Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb. Now, Nick Chubb should be coming back off of that catastrophic knee injury he had, I believe, a year and a half ago. Nick Chubb is going to be coming off of the PUP list. And 9 times out of 10, he's going to be in a running back rotation because they don't want to kill him. They don't want to run that man in the dirt, knowing he came off of that crazy injury. So we may not get Nick Chubb's best. We're actually catching Nick Chubb at the perfect time, believe it or not. Obviously, that Browns offensive line, top 5 in the NFL. Easily top 5. So this D-line is going to have their hands full with the offensive line. Deshaun Watson, can he actually earn that contract? We'll see. Like I said, we're catching Nick Chubb at the perfect time. So this D-line, although they're going up against a legit offensive line, Nick Chubb is still going to be getting his bearings under him. We're almost finished, you guys. Keep it locked. You guys are tuned in to Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to church us to the game. I appreciate you guys for sticking around. Week 7, another layup. Daniel Jones at quarterback. At running back, you got Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy Jr. That's going to be a running back by committee. Devin Singletary had a pretty good year with the Bills, or a pretty good career with the Bills, I think. I forget, and I think he had a pretty good year with the Texans last year as well. He goes to the Giants with no offensive line help. It took someone of Saquon Barkley's caliber to produce in that offense with Daniel Jones. You think I'm scared of Devin Singletary in that offense? Child, please. Now moving on to week 8. You got Joe Burrow. And at running back, you have Zach Moss and Chase Brown. Chase Brown is Sidney Brown's twin brother. Chase Brown is entering year 2. He's going to get more snaps. Zach Moss, he was with the Bills last year. Had a pretty good season. And then Joe Burrow coming off of an injury. And then that Bengals offensive line has always been suspect. So the best offensive line that the Philadelphia Eagles will go up against over the course of these 8 weeks will likely be the Browns. And then from there, you go the Packers. I'm sorry, you go the Falcons. So Browns offensive line comes first. Then you got the Falcons offensive line. And then I may go Buccaneers and Packers offensive line neck and neck. And then I go Bengals and Saints offensive line neck and neck. And then the Giants are dead last. So this Eagles defensive line will have a combination of offense. This Eagles defensive line will have a combination of offensive lines that they will go up against. And as far as quarterback play, the best quarterback you will go up against over this 8-week stretch is Joe Burrow. And that's not until week 8, when your defense should be more solidified and more settled in. And you open the season against Jordan Love. So Jordan Love and Joe Burrow bookend week 1 and week 8 of this first stretch for the Philadelphia Eagles. A great test in week 1, a great test in week 8. And then you got Deshaun Watson in week 6. Another test as well. It's going to be a hell of a season. It's going to be really exciting, you guys. And that's our show for today. Thank you guys so much for locking in for as long as you guys have been. Thank you guys for showing tremendous amounts of support to the show. It means a lot to me. You guys have went crazy on that like button. You guys have been subscribing. You guys have been sharing the content. You guys have been showing mad love. You guys have been buying the merchandise. That's so dope as well. As a matter of fact, make sure you guys go check out the Chalk It Up merch store. Make sure you go bless yourself. You know, we're entering the NFL season, and then the holidays are going to be coming up as well. On top of that, the merch does come in 2 different colorways. Comes in black. It also comes in eucalyptus. Some people call it tan. But regardless, we're going to be uploading some hoodies on here as well, right? We're going to be dropping hoodies just in time for the NFL season. Hoodies will be dropping for you guys. I know a lot of you guys asked for it, so I can't wait until you guys bless yourself. So many people have really taken advantage and blessed themselves already. You never know. There may be a discount code coming soon. So just make sure you guys stay locked in on the merchandise. Stay locked in on the content. If you want to check out the merch shop, the link is posted in the live stream, in the live chat. So make sure you bless yourself, okay? You can find the links damn near everywhere on my Twitter. You can find it on my YouTube channel. You can find it in the live stream, in the live chat. You can find it right under the live stream. You can't miss it. The Apex Predator Jalen Hurts oversized tees are going crazy right now. I'm wearing it right now. I have the black one on. I wear an extra large. The shirts are oversized. It gives you that streetwear 90s look. So make sure you guys lock in. They're so comfortable. I've washed this and it still looks brand new. You know what I'm saying? And the fabric still feels great on my skin. Make sure you guys go lock in. The artwork blends so well into the fabric. I tell you right now, it's not one of those shirts where the artwork and the graphic is really hard. You know what I'm saying? Like the print is like really stiff. Nah, it's not that. It's very smooth, very comfortable. So make sure you guys go lock in on that. I really do appreciate you guys for locking in on the content and what you guys do. You guys know the vibes. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show. Giveaways will be starting back up next week. Make sure you guys stay humble, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay hungry. I've been your humble host, Tone DeShields II, and you guys have been locked in on this amazing dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. And let's give another shout out to our brother, our man, Mark Farzetta. Thank you guys, and have a great rest of your afternoon.